Alright, how's it going everyone? I hope you're doing well, and we are finally back on Anime Crusaders for my Update 2.0 review, or the Chainsaw Man updates. It's been like 3 weeks since I made a video on this game. I didn't really cover the part 2 of the Halloween update, just didn't really think it was necessary. We're back now, and for a little progress report, as per usual, we basically have every unit this update. We don't have Reze, okay? We'll go into the units more in depth later, but she's a banner secret. I don't got the gems for it. But you can see we have Denji, Crusader, Makima, Crusader, and then I have the rest of the units: Power, Aki, oh yeah, Angel, Devil, yeah, Seraph. Again, I don't have Reze or Psyche. I don't even know how you get this guy. But for the rest of the units, yeah, we got him, and I'm pretty happy with most of the units this update. But again, we'll go into them more in depth later on. But to start with the actual content of this update, we really have two main things. If you even want to call this first one a main thing, we got a new story, the Devil City. It's just going to be your average story. The map is actually, it's pretty cool. It actually feels like you're kind of in a city. It feels pretty expansive, even though it really isn't. You know, the Infinite is pretty hard since it's a new map, but there's no legend stages or anything, and there's no like exclusive drop from any of these acts or anything. The only reason you have to do that story is because of the new game mode. Now, this is going to be a boss rush game mode. This itself, like, this isn't really a boss rush. I know Anime Vanguards, they have their version of boss rush. I don't even really think it's a boss rush. Like, I don't know. When I think of boss rush, you would think that you're trying to get to the boss as fast as possible, but you can't really do that with this mode, at least in Anime Crusaders. I don't know. Maybe I got the whole idea wrong here. This is the main thing you're going to be grinding most of the time for everything you need this update. When it comes to the map, it's going to be the graveyard. Pretty iconic. I mean, you've probably seen it at least here or there, even if you haven't watched Chainsaw Man or read it. Before, I guess, you even go into the boss rush mode, you're going to have an option to either enable traits or disable them. Now, disabling traits is going to give you more token of chains, which is a currency used to make some of the Evo items for the characters. Buy out the shop here, I should have mentioned that. You know, you can get the remnant shards, stat cubes, elemental capsules, everything like that. No Evo items here. You're going to have to craft basically every single one with the usual stones and stuff, but you will need these token of chains alongside those stones. But you're also going to have a chance to get Makimo, which is a 2% chance, at least from the trait disabled mode, and if you have traits enabled, she's going to be a 1.33% chance. Now, she is going to have a pity, which if you're strictly doing trait disabled mode, she is going to have a pity of 50. I know it says you need 150 of these control tokens, but you're going to get 3 per clear. And then when you have traits enabled, you're only going to get 2 of these tokens, which is around like 75 clears. So obviously you're going to want to do traits disabled to do this the fastest. You're also going to get 250 gems from not having traits on, while only getting 200 if you have traits enabled. And I guess to quickly go over Maki, since we just covered her, number one, she doesn't have a cosmetic. Like, no, I think one unit has a cosmetic this update. If we look here, Denji doesn't have a cosmetic. Aki doesn't have a cosmetic. Seraph is the only person I know right now that has a cosmetic. I don't know if Reze does. I don't know if Psyche does. But even this cosmetic is like, I mean, it looks okay, but I won't be using this. It's really nothing too special, in my opinion, at least. So kind of a bummer here with all these units. I mean, really, even Power. I don't know if I forgot to mention Power. No cosmetic. Me personally, I look forward to looking at these cosmetics since they put time and effort into them. And there's some really good ones. And I was especially looking forward to the cosmetics for these characters, but there's just none. I have no clue why, because they've been pretty consistent with them throughout these updates, but that's definitely a letdown, this update, I feel, because it's just another reason not to get a unit. Unfortunate there, but Maki herself, very, very strong unit, at least with Crusader. She's still strong without Crusader. Passive-wise, not really anything too intricate. She's going to just gain damage and SPA cooldown based on the amount of enemies inside her range, which caps up to 30% and minus 10% respectively. But her second passive is basically going to allow her to have a chance to store the enemy's soul when she kills them, and each soul is going to grant her 3% damage and 2% range. But when she stores 5 of these souls, she's going to do basically a mini nuke, dealing 231% damage for that next attack. And after that attack, her soul is going to be reset to 0. There's not really a way to track if you have these souls or not. You kind of just have to see based on how high her damage scales if she like has that nuke attack. There's not even like a different effect or anything on the attack itself. Her attacks are really clean, obviously. She has some sound effects, which I think are just taken from the anime, but you know, it's a nice touch. I always like the sound effects that are put into this game. But yeah, very solid unit. I'm very happy I got Crusader on her. She's very, very strong. But moving back to the boss rush mode itself, the main gimmick with this stage is, again, it's not like a rush or anything. You get this done in like 10 plus minutes on traits disabled. At least that's like my time. But the main thing is you're going to have to pick one of the 3 cards that appear as the game mode starts. So you're either going to be able to decrease your overall damage, set every unit you have on your team to only be 1 placement, and the last debuff being, I think, only limiting you to use your first 3 unit slots. So you can't use slots 4 to 6. I mean, a little innovative, but not really. You kind of have to build a team around what you're using. I was personally using the set every unit to 1 placement. I thought that was the easiest and just most simple to use. Makima is going to be the main final boss. She has like a little over 2 million health. Even on traitless, I think I was using Akaza versus Rengoku, Alucard, and Golden Spirit or Dimple from the Mob Psycho update, and then Idol and my farms, and I was doing pretty fine. I did have to replace Dimple a couple times and upgrade him to kill the Makima boss that sometimes got through the rest of my units, but otherwise it's not very different from anything else. It's just another mode you're gonna have to sit in for a while, which doesn't surprise me, but I was hoping for something a little more unique. The unit pity itself to get Makima, I think it's fair. It's better than, was Tengen 75? No, I think it was like 150 or so. What was Tengen pity? I don't know. I just remember Tengen's pity was nerfed a lot, and I think for secret units, as long as they're pretty solid, they should be in the 50 to 75 range. Of course, I would just prefer 50 for the pity. You could argue for lower depending on how long the game mode takes from wherever that unit is from, but 50 I think is pretty reasonable, like anything above it. But at least with this boss rush mode, you have the option to disable traits, making it a little harder, or enabling it, which allows you to potentially clear it easier, but you know, it's going to take longer to get Makima. Yeah, I mean, nothing really else to say with this mode. Personally, I got it on, when did I get Makima? I think I got her on my like 15th run, I would say 15th or 20th if I remember. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it took a little bit. Glad I didn't go to pity, but I mean, 2% chance, that's pretty generous compared to the 1.33. I mean, even 1.33, it's pushing it, but it's pretty fair. And then other than that, like, I guess later on, a couple days after the update dropped, we did get the Halloween shops to restock. So both the pumpkin and candy shop restock. Make sure you get your rerolls while you can. And I guess I think yesterday, or it might have been earlier today, the Spirit Invasion shop reset. I missed it on like over 100 rerolls. That's fine. I'll have to do this or something, dude. Infinity Castle is going to reset next update, apparently. So, you know, make sure you've done everything you want to do there. Get the units, stuff like that. Remember, there is a trait in traitless mode where you get different rewards each time, or for each different section. At least you get a different unit for floor 75. So we already went over Makima, but the other units, Denji, Aki, Power, Angel Devil, and Reze are going to be from the main gem banner. Now, this personally annoys me, but I was not prepared on gems, so obviously it's going to annoy me. But I mean, I'm pretty sure most of the Chainsaw Man units were being rotated pretty frequently when the update dropped. Like, they were basically coded to, you know, appear on banner. I believe, I would think so, because, you know, it's very annoying when the update drops and it's just some like random unit that's on banner from like 4 updates ago that has priority over the new units. So they've been cycling pretty frequently, I've noticed, and I think they were kind of coded to at the beginning of the update. Again, I don't have Reze, we can't go over her, but like we did for Makima, let's just describe the rest of the units. Denji himself, very solid unit. All these units are honestly pretty decent, at least. If he's going to be another bleed unit, he's going to be physical. Every 5th attack, he's going to do 200% more damage, just mini nuke, if you want to call it that. Full AoE and hybrid on the last upgrade. Very nice. He's going to start out as a ground unit. And his last passive is actually going to be kind of interesting. For every different female unit within Denji's range, he's going to gain 10% damage and 10% range up to 30%. And if Makima is in his range, he's going to gain an additional 25% damage. Kind of a unique passive. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not really, but I mean, it's just kind of funny because kind of part of his character, right? I have Crusader on him, like I said. I guess I forgot to mention that all unit levels got raised to 70 instead of 60 now. But yeah, very solid unit. Attacks, very, very nice. Got some chainsaw effects in there. Some explosions, like everything, dude. And the last attack, I think like paint sprays everywhere or something. I don't know what it is. But the model itself, if I look real quick, he looks kind of like, I don't know. I feel like his head's like way too big. But again, he has a chainsaw on his head. I can't really complain like too much with this model. But moving on, let's go Power next. Power, I'd say pretty decent. Not better than Denji, I would say, but still cool unit. Again, another bleed unit, but this time she's actually going to start with a meter, and every time she inflicts bleed on an enemy, the meter is going to fill up by 1. Basically, once this meter reaches 500, so I guess 500 bleed procs on any type of enemy, whatever it is, as long as she's upgrade 8, it looks like, you can choose between Blood Hammer, Blood Spear, and Blood Scythe. And Blood Hammer is going to give you just some more damage, more cooldown, more range, and you know, a big circle AoE, nothing too crazy. But her Blood Spear is going to give her a little less damage and a little more range, but make her hybrid, and it's going to be a medium line AoE. I think this is her second actual move, because originally she's a ground unit, so you know, having that option for hybrid is always nice. And for the last one, Blood Scythe, she's going to do decently less damage, have a decently low cooldown, same amount of range, 100% more range, but she's going to gain 100% more bleed damage and have a medium circle AoE. So the only time she's going to gain hybrid is on the blood spear selection, you know, if you choose that, and you can freely switch between any of these attacks as long as you have that blood meter full. It can be kind of difficult to fill her meter. I feel I usually test these guys out in infinite, but I could tell it kind of took a little while to get to 500 bleed procs, so it might be a little harder to use her to her full potential most of the time, but still pretty decent unit. But moving on, let's go to Aki, I guess. Now Aki, he's all right too. I feel like Aki in like most of these games, if he's at it, he's usually not anything too crazy. He also has some sound effects, like I guess I should say like voice lines. Pretty sure he says kon on mostly every attack. It might just be upgrade 1, because for some reason, like even Makima, she loses her voice lines like on her final upgrades and stuff. I don't know what that's about. But passive wise, Aki is going to gain 10% damage and 10% range if Angel Devil is in his range. Like I said, he's going to do that kon voice line, so he's going to have a fox that's going to be, I think, like a separate kind of cooldown to his normal attack, and this fox cooldown is going to be reduced to 15 seconds, because in his second passive, it describes that if more than 5 enemies are within his range, he's going to summon his fox, which has a 20-second cooldown. So again, kind of just separate from his attack cooldown, but still another attack. So it'll be decreased by 5 seconds if Angel Devil is in his range, and the fox is going to do 100% of his damage, but his damage is going to scale depending on the amount of enemies in his range. So the more enemies are in his range, the more damage he's going to do. If there's 30 plus enemies in his range, it's going to do 200% more damage. So decent unit. I don't know if he goes to hybrid. I will correct myself if I'm wrong. I think he might just be a full ground unit. Moving on to the final unit that I can cover. Again, I don't have Reze, unfortunately. Hopefully soon, because she's a banner secret. Angel Devil is actually going to start as a hybrid unit, so he can be placed on the ground or on a like hill, whatever, just like a hill unit. Pretty cool there. But his first passive is actually going to buff your team. Every 60 seconds, Angel Devil is going to release a radiant pulse, granting 25% damage to all units in range for 15 seconds. And he's also going to inflict a 15% magical debuff to all enemies hit by the pulse. So enemies are going to take an extra percentage of damage from all magical sources. I'm not complaining about that. And then for his second passive, every 60 seconds, Angel Devil enters Fallen Angel state for 30 seconds, and he's going to gain true damage instead of magic. Pretty cool. And then 50% more damage and 25% less cooldown. Fine there. His damage is like all right. Doesn't really compare to anybody else, I feel. But again, decent support, and you know, he is hybrid on placement. So if you ever have like if you really need a hill unit right away, this could be a good option. Applies debuffs, I guess, you know, magical debuffs, and gives your units a pretty frequent damage increase. So not bad at all. So those are all the units I can cover. All like pretty solid, honestly. Like I feel like they all have their uses. Some of them pair with each other. The one I probably wouldn't use is Aki. Like if I had to pick one person to not use, it'd probably just be Aki. But even then, like you can maybe use them. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to cover for this update. Me personally, I enjoyed this update a fair bit. I feel like these events are getting a little repetitive. Obviously, the rewards are nice, but like the game mode itself wasn't really anything special. It was a solid update. I think it's definitely up there with some of their better updates. I think the Halloween update was still probably a little better. I think that's their best update, but this probably comes in like a close second, just going off the top of my head. I do hope the devs innovate a little more with game modes and stuff in the future. I hope they're not like completely gutting the cosmetics, because this was honestly a big letdown, seeing that almost none of these units have cosmetics. Again, I don't know if Reze has a cosmetic, but Angel Devil, the only one having a cosmetic. Again, I don't know if Psyche has one, but the Angel Devil cosmetic, not too great in my opinion. And just the rest of the units don't have cosmetics. It's just kind of unfortunate. So hope they can keep adding them in the future, because that's something I personally keep looking forward to. The next update should be, I think it's a Fate update. So if you like Fate, that update might be for you. I'm not a personal Fate fan, but I'm glad at least to get Chainsaw Man in there. Something I, have watched, read a little bit of, and enjoy. So, obviously, depending on what the update is based off of, that'll kind of dictate people's enjoyment of the update as a whole. It's only natural. I guess I forgot to mention that the UI basically got not a whole rehaul, but a lot of things got changed. It's definitely a lot smoother, a lot cleaner. It looks better. Like I know health bars got changed a little bit. The unit upgrader in game got changed a little bit. Everything just looks a little nicer. And even though I thought like the UI didn't really look too bad to begin with, and it was one of the better ones I've seen with these types of games, I'm glad to see they're improving. And yeah, let me know what you guys think of this update down in the comments. Again, I do have a Discord server. It's linked in the description and probably the comments. I'm active there a lot, so if you want, join, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.